Hi, welcome to Edward Boss Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is the Scorpions 1977 classic Taken by Force. So today's December the 4th, it was released that day, it's 45 years old today. So what marks this album as significant, it's the last studio album featuring Uli Jon Roth. They would do the Tokyo Tapes album after this on this tour, and that would kind of bring that whole era to an end, and the Scorpions would start to change sound. And there's a few pointers to that change in sound on this album. I think it was produced by Dieter Dierks, his studios in West Germany as it was then, and it was recorded between July and October 1977. I think the first thing you notice about the sound of this album, it's definitely the best sounding album of the Uli era. The production on In Trance is pretty cool, nice 70s vibe. On Virgin Kill is cool, but they're kind of a bit more cluttered. There's a kind of nicer separation to this, is a little warmer. Possibly because that's simpler drums. Herman Rarebell, this is his debut. Again, Herman Rarebell, he will start writing lyrics, and this will all contribute to the change in the Scorpions sound. So the first track is one of the straws that broke the camel's back for Uli Jon Roth. I mean, he always said he would only do 5 albums with the Scorpions, but if it's 5 if you include Tokyo Tapes, but he really didn't like this track in his Steam Rock Fever. I like it, it's kind of got a glam sort of party rock thing. What's interesting is it's in the kind of Phrygian Dominant mode sound, which is beloved of Uli, but it's written by Rudy and Klaus. You can kind of hear on this, you know, it's got the major third of the triad in the chord as well. Maybe that's split between the two guitar parts, and that's something the Scorpions, that's one of their trademarks. They play straight power chords, power fifths, but often Rudy as well will put the octave in the power fifth now, you know, giving it a full power chord. And that's something that stands out to me. And then he will play, you know, add the third on the top sometimes in that shape. Yes, it's a catchy track for him. It's 36, starts off with some cool industrial sounds. I wonder if it was sort of, you know, the chanting in the chorus almost sounds like could have a kind of Japanese accent to it. Maybe, I don't know whether they've got some fans to do it, they did for some other stuff. But it seems to be a track that would go down well, you know, in the Tokyo Tapes vibe. So the next track is an absolute classic, We'll Burn the Sky. So again, this is written by Rudy, but the lyrics are based on a poem by Monica Dannemann. She was Uli's girlfriend at the time, but she was also the last girlfriend of Jimi Hendrix. Sadly, she took her own life. She was a good artist as well. She was married, or she was, you know, in a long-term relationship with Uli. So this is interesting. Again, this starts off with a cool pick bit. You can hear there's a little bit of distortion there, Rudy, but it has another classic Scorpions trademark of the chop chord, down, 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 and again he's playing the power fifth shape but with a third on the top. I'm guessing it's E minor. This is really epic. It's got a great vocal by Klaus, really cool sort of harmony guitars by Uli. He does that thing, Uli, like he slightly underbends a couple of notes, but when he does it, it's kind of quirky, almost Jeff Beckish. You know, sometimes when he hits those high notes, he gets that weird kind of strain on them. But it's a classic, and it sounds as good or better on the Tokyo Tapes album. On the Tokyo Tapes album, it plays his track, and then you go into Suspend the Love. Now, Suspend the Love on the CD I've got is a bonus track, track 9. The album's actually 39 minutes and 5 seconds long, so they could have put the Suspend the Love track on this album, and it still would have only been 42 minutes. But this is an era, again, I've spoken about this before, where albums tend to be kept under 40 minutes. They're very, very rarely over 40 minutes. Due to the, you know, the grooves in the vinyl and keeping the quality. Yeah, that's that track. It's great, great fade out solo, and it shows like Uli's use of octaves as well. Obviously, you know, a lot of metal bands and rock bands use octaves, but Uli's taking it from Hendrix, but no one other guitarists really doing that. Naomi sometimes, but Uli's kind of crafting them into the rhythm parts. And the other thing he does on this track as well, he does these single note lines, they're kind of pulled back in the mix of reverb on, bow, bow, you know, and then it gives it a gothic quality, and that's unique to the Roth Rudy dynamic. Next track's not very well known track. When I listened to it today, I blasted this track actually a couple of times. I think it's really good. I really like this track. So I've got to be through. It's 4 minutes. So you've got quite a funky Hendrix riff, but Klaus is on kind of wild, kind of Klaus kind of mode. I like the lyric. The kind of lyrical style of it kind of predates some kind of stuff you might get at Animal Magnetism, but it's got it's an Uli era track. It's written by Uli Roth, the lyrics as well. So it's cool, you know, it really fits in with the vibe of the album. I think it's a great deep cut, really like it, and it's got like a cool sort of solo on there. I'm not sure what the effect Uli uses is, but it you know, it's almost like the Dark Lady, you know, it's got those grinding whammies. And then side one, finish off the right of your time, it's a Rudy Klaus composition. This is 4 minutes and 8. So this has kind of got a jangly acoustic with like a nice, and he put a kind of high note on the top in the voicing. This is probably the weakest track on side one, but again, you got some cool octaves from Uli's, cool guitar work. It's a good 6 out of 10 track. It's interesting. Like I say, I mean, they could have put Suspend a Love on. I mean, Suspend a Love would be a really cool track to finish side one, but I guess they weren't going for that vibe. And Suspend a Love, kind of the lyric and the sort of slinkiness of it, kind of, it's pretty showing where, like with Steam Rock Figure, it's showing where the band's gonna go, I think, a bit more. So side 2 of the original vinyl opens with one of the sort of titanic tracks of an early 70s heavy metal hard rock, The Sails of Charon. It's a very important track. It's not the first track to use the Phrygian Dominant scale and that mode. An actual fact, I think the Scorpions flew with that a little bit on Picture Life, but there's a track off Flight of the Rainbow and the title escapes me. But again, he's using that Middle Eastern sound. Obviously, Richard Blackmore had done it, but this, I think the difference with this track is the riff's like super heavy for the time. It's got that dark sound that's going to be beloved of Malmsteen and thrash metal and so on. The opening solo, if you go, I've already spoken about this on my run through all the Scorpions album on this channel, which I did a few years ago. But it's just stunning. You know, it's weird. I mean, I always thought it was really cool, but it was only in the last few years I kind of listened to it. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is like, it's like a world opening. It's like there's a crack in the guitar universe, and out bursts Uli Jon Roth doing the solo from The Sails of Charon, and then, you know, the lights coming and it's just entering the brains of guitarists, and it's a eureka moment, you know, and then you get Marty Friedman and Malmsteen and all that, and it's superb solo and so unique because it opens the song. Quite interesting, this song, because it doesn't really have a chorus, but it's just got a But later on in the track, he does some really intricate, right at the end, he does some really intricate and fast harmonised lines. Then it kind of switches to a kind of major tonality, and then there's that weird ending where he's almost dropping the whammy and it tails off. How long is it? It's 4:20. No, sorry, what am I doing? It's 4:23. Apologies there. So it's it's a punchy track. It's great. It's just like a really, really amazing track for the Scorpions. Then the next track is Your Light. This again, it's got the funky Hendrix vibe. It's got a really nice mellow vocal from Klaus. I think this song kind of lacks a kind of chorus. It's got a kind of pre-chorus, and the chorus is sort of not that chorusy. It's got a great outro solo from Uli, and it's although it's a kind of 6 out of 10 track, it's a good track. I really like the Uli's rhythm work on the verses is fabulous. Then the next track's a classic. Obviously the lyrics seem a bit dodgy now, and the Scorpions, they're always going to court controversy. But I think what's interesting, again, this is a track that shows where the band's going to go. It's He's a Woman, She's a Man. I think you can see the DNA of this track. You'll find it in Another Piece of Meat, Don't Make No Promises, which are great, but I think it gives rise to what I call a Scorpions up-tempo party track, wild party track, like, and you get kind of lesser tracks like Now and The Same Thrill, and Love on the Run, you know, on later albums. But this track's great. It's got a really evil sort of riff, almost Sabbathy, but it's got that 12/8 meter. And again, it's one of the heaviest tracks. I think that riff's one of the heaviest tracks at the time, and I think this album's the most metal. It's got the most metal elements of the Scorpions. If people ask me what the Scorpions are, I would say they're a hard rock band, always have been, but with some proto metal elements. But this album, when they do, you know, He's a Woman, Sails of Charon, you know, the metal songs. So it's a great track. Herman Rarebell gets a credit on this. I'm guessing he wrote some of the lyrics on this. And again, that shows where they're going to go, because Herman will start writing quite a few lyrics, the party rock lyrics, and they will lose their sort of spiritual dimension that they have in some of the lyrics. And then it finishes with Born to Touch Your Feelings. So the previous album, Virgin Killer, started the tradition of finishing with a ballad, but I think the difference with Yellow Raven is, as I said before, it's kind of that ethereal sort of space rock type of lyric. Born to Touch Your Feelings, it's the classic Scorpions love lyric. This will give rise to Holiday, Still Loving You, Lady Starlight, you know, but that idea of having the ballad finishing, I mean, obviously Animal Magnetism doesn't, but Blackout finishes with When the Smoke is Going Down, of course the classic Still Loving You. The underrated track, Believe in Love, actually, is one of the better tracks of Savage Amusement. So the Scorps, this is where it starts with that style of ballad. I really like this track. I had it on the car. So it's kind of the main riff's kind of got a 12/8 meter, a bit like, it's not like it, but like, if you know, Always With You, Always With Me, Joe Satriani. And it switches to kind of more 6/8 for the chorus. Lovely acoustic guitars on this when it breaks down at the end. I don't know if it's Uli playing or Rudy, but it's got a classic upper triads on the chords, on the G being high, on the acoustic, the Scorpions trademark. Again, Uli makes really cool use of those single note lines that are pulled back in the mix. And it's got a really kind of gothic-y European flavour, this almost Eastern European. And it's got the upbeat sort of majorness to the chorus. Mix is quite funny on the chorus. The drums are kind of just quite leaden. I mean, it's one of those things I never really thought about Herman Rebel's drumming until recently, but his drums are very unintrusive because they're just really singularly spectacular. And they're not like Phil Rudd where, you know, you've got that great pocket or groove. I mean, the tempo's good, his grooves, it feels good, but I noticed on Wheel Burn the Sky, listen to this, you know, there's these fills and he just goes do, 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 instead of doing something, you know, more flamboyant, which he could do. But anyway, I've digressed, yeah, so it's quite an odd mix on the choruses, but at the end they use some fans, different female fans, to record various spoken word stuff, and that overlaps, and it gives it a kind of European art film quality, like a 1960s, 70s, you know, Truffaut or something like that. And I really like it. It's quite experimental. They wouldn't do, although they would take this template for ballads, they wouldn't do one sound like this. It's 7 minutes 37, so it's one of the longest tracks they did up to this point, you know, saved Lotus Crow and some tracks of Flight of the Rainbow. I actually think after this album they wouldn't do a track this long. Maybe Still Loving You comes close. But really good. Like I say, you get Suspended Love as a bonus track on this. I think it's a great record. I mean, listening today, I give it a 9 out of 10. There's not a bad track. It's kind of got 6 core tracks and 2 6 out of 10 tracks. Obviously, last year I reviewed Virgin Killer. You know, I don't know, Virgin Killer's got those amazing tracks, but this is maybe more consistent. It benefits from better production. Then you've got In Trance. You know, it's very difficult at the moment. I'm kind of like, oh, maybe he's taking My Force is the best Uli era album. I don't know. But I do think the Uli Jon Roth era, there's 3 albums, you know, 75, 76, 77, and then that's the Tokyo Tapes, which captures that era. The end of that era is really classic. I think the only criticism of the Tokyo Tapes is not much. So you've got Wheel Burn the Sky and Suspend a Love, which isn't on the album. You've got He's a Woman, She's a Man, but it doesn't. It maybe could have featured another track off this. There's not much off Virgin Killer as well on that album. There's Catchy Train, Backstage Queen, Polar Nights. But you know, it would have been good to have another track off that. It tends to kind of the Flight of the Rainbow and more in trance tracks, but I guess they've been playing those more. But it's a great document, and I think I doubt it's got hardly any overdubs. The Scorpions are so tight. Uli's playing and Rudy's fantastic. Class sounds great. Herman and Francis really tight. So, you know, the Tokyo Tapes album is another essential one to get. So yeah, Taken by Force, 45 years old today. Great record. You know, kind of, it's become my favourite era of the Scorpions, the Uli era. Yeah. Okay, see you again soon. Cheers, thanks very much.